25 tricks that cops don't want you to know. I mean, there probably are things you can say to police officers that will make it like an easier thing to experience if you get like stopped or like, searched or anything like that. I do wonder though, if any of these are actually like, kind of get out of jail free cards, because I would think that stuff like this would remain a real secret to the police. They really, really wouldn't want you to know. So I'm quite eager to see what we're going to learn here.
Cops aren't exactly handing out rule books on how they work.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, there's a lot they'd rather you didn't know. Like how they can legally lie to you, or what actually happens if you refuse a search. I'm Mike with List 25, and today I'm counting down 25 tricks cops don't want you to know.
Cops can't lie to you, can they? Isn't that perjury if lying under like law, lying under the law? I think that's perjury, isn't it?
Starting with the question they ask just to get you to confess without even realizing it. Now, let's get one thing clear before I dive in. I'm not saying everyone's a criminal and police aren't the bad guys, but for today's list, I'm taking a look at some of the tactics they're allowed to use. For instance, you should know that when a cop pulls you over and casually asks, "Do you know why I stopped you?" It's not just small talk. It's a loaded question designed to get you to confess to something, even if they don't have solid evidence yet. A lot of people panic and blurt out a guess like, "Was I speeding?" Or, "I didn't mean to run the stop sign," thinking it'll score points for honesty. It doesn't. It just hands them an easy confession they can use.
No way. So you're meant to be like, I don't know, why did you stop me?
Use against you. The smartest move? Keep it polite and say, "No, officer." That way you're not giving them anything to work with. But they're not always fishing for words. Sometimes they're fishing for permission too. If a cop asks, "Mind if I take a look in your car?" They might sound friendly, but don't be fooled. If you say yes, you've just given up one of your biggest protections. In 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that police don't have to tell you that you can refuse a search, and cops have used this rule ever since. They know most people feel nervous or pressured and say yes, even when the officer has no warrant or probable cause. And once you agree, anything they find is fair game. So don't guess, don't assume. Politely refuse the search and force them to meet the legal standard. And just because you say no doesn't mean they'll stop. It usually means they'll start bluffing.
But if you say no, won't that like automatically escalate things? Like, it immediately puts you against the cop because they're going to be thinking, why are you saying no? Are you guilty?
Sticking with my example of being pulled over, you should know one of a cop's favorite tricks is giving you what sounds like an order. They'll say something like, "I need you to pop the trunk," or "If you don't let us in, we'll just get a warrant." It feels official, but it's really a maneuver disguised as authority. Threatening to apply for a warrant is legal if they've got some reason, but pretending they already have one is illegal. They're betting you'll cave without realizing you can refuse. Don't fall for it. If they truly had evidence of your guilt, they wouldn't need your permission. Of course, when words and pressure aren't enough, they might just invent a reason to search anyway. Should a police officer ever walk up to you on the street and start chatting, doesn't mean you're stuck there. If you're not being detained or arrested, you have every right to leave. The thing is, they are not required to tell you that.
This is the thing though, a lot of people, myself included, if a cop randomly started talking to me, I would immediately feel like very nervous. Like, why are they talking to me? What have I done? So if they ask me to do something, I'm probably just going to like automatically say yes. Like, do you think you'd be a bit more like resistant to it? You'd be like, "No, like I need a warrant before you search my house, blah, blah, blah."
And a lot of officers won't. They'd rather you feel unsure and stick around. If you're not sure what's happening, politely ask, "Am I being detained?" If the answer is no, or if they dodge the question, you can walk away. You're not being rude. You're using your rights. Because sometimes all it takes is one tiny mistake to give them exactly what they need to go through everything you've got. Another sneaky method police employ is the knock and talk. You could also be sitting at home minding your own business when suddenly there's a knock at the door. It's the police. No warrants, no paperwork. They're just there for a friendly chat. They'll act like you have to open the door, let them in, but you don't. Without a warrant or some kind of emergency, they're just regular visitors knocking. You can talk through the door or step outside, but don't invite them in. If you do, anything they see or smell in plain view can be used against you. Stay polite, but firm. No warrant, no entry. And remember, whether it's at your door, your car, or out on the street, their goal is the same. Find a way in. And if they can't talk their way there, they might just switch tactics and find a reason to arrest you instead. Sometimes a tiny thing like a broken taillight, yes, we're back to being in cars, or a missing insurance card is enough for an officer to flip the whole situation. If they really want to search you or your car but don't have the legal grounds, they might arrest you for something small just to make it happen. Right. And yes, the Supreme Court signed off on this. In Atwater v. Lago Vista, 2001, a woman got handcuffed and hauled to jail for not wearing her seatbelt, a violation that normally...
What? I mean, that seems crazy. For not wearing a seatbelt?
It just gets a fine. Once you're under arrest, even for something small, police can search you and parts of your car without a warrant. If it happens to you, don't resist. It won't help. Keep your cool, say as little as possible, and get a lawyer. Now, if arresting you doesn't seem like the right move, well, there's another classic trick they'll pull out next. Let's say you've done everything right so far. Stayed calm, stayed polite, refused the search. The next move some officers love to pull is claiming they smell something illegal. I smell weed, they'll say, even if you've never touched the stuff.
I've seen that in so many TV shows, like, yeah, can you smell that? I smell ganja.
And in a lot of places, well, that's all they need to start searching your car without asking, again. Courts usually back them up because smell is considered a probable cause. Oh. It's not fair, but it's hard to argue in the moment. If it happens, don't argue. Just hold your ground politely and take mental notes. Or better yet, record the encounter, because once that happens, you're building a case for later. Which brings me to our next one. Some officers will confidently tell you something that just isn't true.
I think a lot of these as well are, if you are innocent or if you 100% think you're innocent of whatever it is the officer is thinking you're guilty of, you're more likely to just allow them to do all of this stuff where maybe we shouldn't, like if they don't have the right to come into your house, should you just give it to them just because you know that you're innocent? It's an interesting one. I probably lean towards I'd just let them in because I know that I've not done anything. But if you don't have to, then should you?
Like, it's illegal to film police, hand me your phone. Or if you stay quiet, that's obstruction. Neither of those are true. You have the right to record public officials doing their jobs, and you have the right to stay silent, as long as you're not physically getting in the way. So if an officer makes a big threat, stay collected, ask if you're free to go, and don't unlock or hand over anything you don't legally have to. Then again, if scaring you on the spot doesn't work, their next move might be to invite you into their turf. If an officer ever says, hey, why don't you just come on down to the station to clear things up, treat that like a giant red flag. You're not under arrest, but once you're inside that little room, it sure won't feel voluntary. Yeah. They don't have to read you your Miranda rights if you show up on your own, and a lot of people end up talking themselves into serious trouble. Police use the setup, the closed room, the ploy, to get you talking without all the protections you'd normally have. If they ask you in, ask back, am I a suspect? And can I bring a lawyer? If they dodge, well, you have your answer. But you don't even have to walk into a station for things to get tricky.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you get in that room, they're probably going to sit you in a little corner. Two of them will sit right in front of you, blocking you off from an exit. It'll probably feel so claustrophobic. And yeah, you're pretty much in an interrogation at that point. They're just trying to get a confession out of you.
Officers can also say, you're not under arrest, we just want to talk, and start asking questions right where you are. Since it's just a chat, they skip the Miranda warning. But every word you say is still fair game. A lot of people let their guard down thinking, well, if they didn't Mirandize me, well, this doesn't count. Trust me, it absolutely does. Police might even hold off on arresting you just to keep you talking.
Wow.
So if it feels like an interrogation, treat it like one. Stay calm, stay polite, and don't answer anything serious without a lawyer. Because the minute you start hinting you want a lawyer, the pressure game shifts into overdrive. The minute you even hint that you might want a lawyer, some officers will switch gears fast. They'll say things like, a lawyer's just going to slow us down, or if you lawyer up, I can't help you. They might even throw in a guilt trip. Innocent people usually don't mind talking.
I mean, it shouldn't even be legal to say that if you lawyer up, I can't help you. Because, I mean, they're not really trying to help you anyway, like, are they? They're trying to get you to confess. Don't you guys think that's kind of a bit misleading? Because a lot of people will just fold and say, okay, fine, I'm not going to get a lawyer.
It's a tactic, and a good sign you should absolutely stop talking. They know that once you bring in a lawyer, their job gets a lot harder. So, here's the move. Don't waffle. Don't ask, should I get a lawyer? Just say, I want a lawyer. That one sentence slams the brake on questioning, legally. Either way, after all that stalling, the next phase is pure psychology. You've probably seen it in the movies. Good cop, bad cop. It's based on something real called the Reed technique. The idea is simple. Wear you down with isolation, pressure you with accusations, and then offer a way out through a friendly cop who empathizes and understands everything you're going through. It's not about being evil, it's about getting a confession. But the problem is, it doesn't always catch the guilty. It's led to false confessions, like what happened with Na Chuang, a teenager who confessed to a crime she didn't commit. So if the mood in the room suddenly flips from hostile to helpful, it's a strategy.
Yeah, man, I've seen some horrific stories of people getting serving 43 years despite being innocent. They made a false confession because they were pressurized by the cops. 43 years, even if you get millions of dollars in compensation, it's still taken 43 years of your life.
Anyway, if mind games don't crack you, they'll try something even simpler. Pure exhaustion. One of the oldest tactics in the book is simply to wear you down. Some interrogations have dragged on for 12, 18, even 24 hours. And when you're exhausted, stressed, and desperate to sleep, you're a lot more likely to say whatever you think will end it. It's not some movie stunt either. DNA exoneration studies have shown that plenty of false confessions started with endless questioning. The longer they push, the more your memory and judgment take a hit. If you ever feel trapped in a room like that, you have the right to end it.
Man, that's crazy. They shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Say, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer. Then, stop talking. However, once you're tired enough, they might change their tune and offer you a so-called way out. You'll hear things like, help yourself out by confessing, or if you cooperate, the judge will go easy on you. Now, if you're in a heap of trouble, that might sound very tempting. But here's the catch. Police officers can't actually guarantee you anything. Only prosecutors and courts decide what happens, not the officers doing the questioning. Any promise they make isn't binding, and once you confess, you've handed them exactly what they need to charge you. Moving on, here's something a lot of people don't realize. Police officers are legally allowed to lie to you.
Yeah, this is insane. Come on. They shouldn't be allowed to do that.
A lot of people don't realize that here in the US, police are legally allowed to lie to suspects during interrogations. They can say, we found your fingerprints. Your friend already gave you up. Or, there's video of you at the scene. Even if none of that's true. To make things worse, in Fraser v. Cupp, 1969, the Supreme Court ruled that lying about evidence doesn't automatically make a confession invalid. The problem? Hearing that they've got proof can make even innocent people panic and confess
100%.
Just to get it over with. Always remember, if an officer says they have enough evidence, there's no benefit in talking. It's not your job to prove them wrong. It's your job to protect yourself.
And also, if they say that they've got enough evidence, they wouldn't be questioning you, would they? You'd be arrested, wouldn't you?
Sticking with bluffs for the moment, made-up fingerprints and fake confessions aren't the only lies you have to watch out for. Police officers might tell you that someone picked you up out of a lineup or saw you at the scene, even if no one has. It's totally legal for them to make that up. In People v. Dominic, 1986, detectives told a suspect the victim had ID'd him, even though she hadn't seen any photos yet. And he confessed. Now, lies aside, real eyewitnesses aren't always reliable either. Descriptions change, people mix up details, or they get steered towards a suspect without even realizing it. The bottom line is that just because an officer says someone pointed the finger at you doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
Don't let a fake story push you into giving a real confession.
And you might have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, you might have been at Walmart while somebody was robbing a Walmart and the person pointed at you. It doesn't make you the guy who robbed it.
And they can lie about your friends too. They might casually say something like, "Your friend already told us everything," like it's no big deal. Suddenly, it's not just about you anymore. You start worrying about loyalty, about who's saying what, about saving yourself. And that's exactly the point. In People v. Dominic, detectives decided to go with this move, telling a suspect that his cousin had confessed. He hadn't, but just hearing it got the suspect talking. It's not just lying, it's playing you against the people you trust. Okay, let's talk about how even the way they ask a question can back you into a corner. Not every question is innocent. Some are designed to steer you toward a certain answer without you even noticing. They'll ask you things like, "Did you see the man in black and white overalls?" Not a man, which quietly suggests that guy definitely existed. Loaded questions are even trickier. "What time did you leave in the getaway car?" assumes you were even near the crime. These setups are built to box you in and make you confirm details you might not even know about. If a question feels strange or unfair, that's your sign to slow down.
Honestly, I think the smartest thing you can do if you're in this situation is just ask for a lawyer. Because, yeah, I would fall for a lot of these questions. Like, you know, especially if they keep you in there for 12 hours. Like, that much time, I'd be saying anything I can to get it to stop.
Think carefully, or better yet, keep quiet. Unfortunately, not every threat wears a badge or asks official questions. In serious cases, police sometimes plant an undercover officer or informant right next to you, in a jail cell, on the street, or even at work. In cases like these, you might think you're venting to another regular person, but every word is passed straight back to the cops. And it's perfectly legal. In Illinois v. Perkins, 1990, the court decided that Miranda rights do not apply when a suspect unknowingly speaks to an undercover officer. It's a sneaky move because you don't see it coming. The rule here? If you've been arrested or you're caught up in something serious, don't discuss anything with anyone you don't absolutely trust. However, when the police can't reach you directly, they might reach out to someone you'd never suspect. If someone in your circle gets into trouble, police might offer them a deal. "Help us and we'll go easy on you." That could mean wearing a wire, forwarding your texts, or just quietly reporting what you say. In Hoffa v. United States, 1966, the Supreme Court made it clear. If you share something willingly, even with a friend who's secretly an informant, it's fair game.
Wow. It reminds me of The Sopranos. Like, any of you guys watch The Sopranos with in season 1 where big PUSSY becomes a snitch for the feds and he wears a wire and they find him and oh man, just the betrayal on Tony Soprano's face.
It's a tough reality, but once a secret's out, you've lost control of it. So if someone you know suddenly gets a little too curious about your business, be cautious. Trust matters.
By the way, guys, if any of you haven't watched The Sopranos, you need to watch The Sopranos. One of the best TV shows of all time.
But so does knowing when to keep quiet. Since I've covered how people close to you can turn informant, let me talk about how total strangers can do the same thing without ever meeting you. I've covered how strangers in jail cells and even your own friends can turn on you, but what about people you've never even met? These days, you don't need to be sitting across from someone to get set up. Cops are all over social media, watching public posts, joining private groups, and even sliding into your DMs with fake profiles.
Wow.
That random new follower could be an undercover account gathering evidence.
No way.
In New York City, officers used fake Facebook profiles to track gang suspects and even made arrests. And it's not just bragging that gets people into trouble. Sarcastic jokes can be twisted too. I think it's safe to say that if you wouldn't say it to a cop's face, it's safer not to post it at all. Strange internet stings aside, cops still love the old school approach too. Police love a good sting operation. They'll pose as drug buyers, sex workers, or shady dealers to see who bites. Stings are legal, but entrapment, tricking someone into committing a crime they wouldn't normally commit, isn't.
Oh.
The line gets blurry fast.
I thought entrapment was legal, like when they set up like a fake deal and a drug deal. I don't know why I did that. YouTube is super sensitive these days. And like, the dealer is actually a cop. The guy comes to buy stuff off the dealer and the guy gets arrested. That's entrapment, and I thought that was legal.
If an officer keeps pushing and begging you to do something illegal, that could count as entrapment. But if you jump at the chance, well, that's on you.
Wow.
There have been some ugly cases where cops pushed vulnerable people way too far. The safest move? If a stranger is too eager to get you to break the law, walk away. Luckily, in most cases, setups aren't complicated, but there are some that can be compared to Hollywood productions.
Really?
Have you ever heard of the Mr. Big sting? It was dreamed up in Canada, of all places. If you've been targeted, the police don't just target you with an undercover cop, they'll build a whole fake criminal empire around you. You get recruited, sent on fake jobs, paid real money, and treated like you're part of the crew. Then, just when you're feeling all important, you meet Mr. Big, the boss, who says you've got to confess to any serious crimes before you're fully trusted. Under pressure to impress, a lot of people spill everything.
Oh my God. I mean, like, it's so obvious, but at the time, it's probably not.
Some have even confessed to crimes they didn't commit. Canada's Supreme Court at one point stepped in and said these confessions have to be treated with major skepticism. The US and UK won't even allow stings like this, but they still happen in places like Australia and New Zealand. Alright, now that I've covered how police officers can squeeze suspects, let's talk about how they get information out of witnesses too. And no, they don't just sit them down and ask, "What happened?" Instead, they use something called cognitive interview. It's all about jogging the memory without pushing too hard. They'll ask about random details, like what the weather was like or what smells were floating around in the air, to get the brain working. Sometimes they'll even ask people to recall the events backwards, which sounds weird, but actually helps. It's not about tricking the witness, really. It's about getting more details by loosening up the memory. Still, memories can be messy, and even a confident eyewitness can remember things wrong. Bringing an end to the list, there's one last technique you should know about. It's called a kinesic interview, and it's less about what you say and more about how you say it. While you're answering questions, officers are trained to watch every twitch, glance, and fidget. Slumping in your chair, crossing your arms, rubbing your neck, all of these can be flagged as confession behaviors.
Really?
Some departments even
So if you scratch your forehead, that could be counted as a confession? Come on.
teach that liars look up and to the left when answering, even though modern research says that's not actually a reliable sign of lying. Still, these old school tactics get used all the time. The real takeaway? If you're ever questioned, remember, police aren't just listening to your words, they're reading you. And after everything we've covered today, you can see just how much they're trained to spot or create an advantage. And that's a wrap. So,
Wow. Crazy. I mean, I think personally they shouldn't be allowed to lie, because it's like, if they can lie, why can't you lie? It should be fair, don't you think? Like, if a suspect lies under oath, that's perjury. So it should be the same for the people that are upholding the law, I think. Don't you? It should be, because it should be, in fact, I think they should be held to like a higher standard, because they're the sort of arm of the law. Also, the line between entrapment and stinging seems really, really blurry. It's pretty much the same thing. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.